Good afternoon, Michael here. I am in the middle of nowhere. I'm driving up Interstate 29 in North Dakota, and there is nothing out here. Occasionally you run across a town like Fargo or Grand Forks, but other than that, prairie as far as the eye can see. Which is totally fine. It's what I like. I kind of enjoy that. I just got back from a week of storm chasing out on the central and southern plains. I have visited quite a bit of different states in the last few days. My trip began in Wyoming, and then that moved on to, where was the next state? I don't even remember. Where did I go? All right, so I visited Wyoming and then Nebraska. Went home for a little bit, and then did some storm chasing in Oklahoma, the Texas Panhandle for a few days, Colorado and Kansas, and then finally Colorado and Nebraska. So I've been all over the place. And now I'm headed to Manitoba. So I've visited just about every state in the plains except Montana, I guess. So since weather is down for a few days and I still have some vacation left, decided to go do something else fun. I'm headed up to Nopiming Provincial Park in southeastern Manitoba, right on the Ontario-Manitoba border. About 100 miles or so across the international border, about an hour or two north of Winnipeg, I think. So what is my plan? Well, I want to get some video together for various things. I'll vlog my trip, but I have several little projects that I want to work on. So I'm going to collect video for that. For instance, I'm headed to an area that is about 50 degrees north or about 60 degrees north geomagnetic latitude, which means it's an excellent spot for viewing northern lights. Currently, there is a solar wind stream flowing from a coronal hole in the sun. Basically, that means there's additional solar wind buffeting the Earth's magnetosphere, which bodes well for northern lights on any given night. For fun, I'm going to kayak into the park on the Rabbit River. And initially, at least, I'm going to paddle just a little ways and find a campsite on the river or on one of the lakes early on in the river. I'm going to end up getting there around 6 o'clock and sunsets about 9:30 with reasonable amount of daylight until 10, so I don't have a ton of time once I get there. Early on, I'll just paddle in, set up camp, probably do some fishing, and sit around by the campfire and watch the sky. I'm doing this trip entirely by myself, and I'll be paddling in a kayak. It's a 12-foot Old Town Dirigo. I don't know, it's some town in Maine, I think. I'll look that one up later. But now, I'm not totally inexperienced, but I haven't done one of these by myself before. I have done kayaking trips, I've done long distance kayaking, I've done an awful lot of camping. I haven't done a lot of combined paddling and camping together, but I don't think that's a big deal. I have done trips by myself, but I was, either in a car or storm chasing or whatever. So this will be a new experience for me, or at least a new package, if you will. Going into a remote area and paddling myself in, finding my own campsite, and setting up camp. Chances are I won't be completely alone. There's other campsites, and it's a big park with campgrounds with actual, campers and stuff like that. This isn't like Woodland Caribou, where it's way off in the Boreal and impossible to get to except by boat or plane. So Nopiming Provincial Park is a little bit more easy mode. This isn't a complicated river system. Portages are short and fairly easy, or involve just dragging a boat over rocks for a few minutes. Initially, I'm going to start at the low part of the river and one of the easy to get to lakes. I could probably be there within an hour or two a day. Now, I have 3 nights to work with, but I may or may not use them all. The first night, I'm going to spend up on the lower part of the river system. But for the second day, I'm going to probably, if I'm feeling froggy, feeling confident enough in my abilities, I'll work my way up to the Coal Lake, which is further upstream and a much bigger lake and a great fishing lake from what I understand. So we'll take baby steps. Like I said, I'm not inexperienced, but I haven't done this thing before. So you're probably wondering what I've got going on. What are these projects that you're talking about? Well, once storm chasing season winds down, I'll be moving on to more outdoors based stuff and talking about things like ecologies, geology, that sort of thing. I've got a couple of ecology videos coming up. At the end of July, I'm planning on heading down to the desert Southwest during the heart of monsoon season. I've got some trips to the upper Midwest planned, mostly for more ecology stuff. I'm still working on, or still trying to do my next constellation video. I promise I'll do another one. It has been a nightmare for getting clear skies during moonless nights. It seems like every new moon we're having bad weather, and we're having great weather during a full moon, and that doesn't work out too great. A couple of months ago, it was just too darn cold. I mean, it's impossible to do astrophotography when the wind's blowing 30 miles an hour and it's minus 20. Sorry, you just can't do it. Not unless you've got an observatory. I don't have one of those anymore. Anyway, I'm gonna collect a bunch of video, vlog this trip as I'm doing, and you can get to see some of the shenanigans I'm up to. Meanwhile, I'm gonna take the next step on some outdoor skills, really push myself forward. I did it. Guys, this is my first walleye. Now I've picked this trip, and I've picked where I'm going and what I'm doing based on being able to take baby steps. You know, initially I'm gonna stay close to shore. I'm, not gonna be paddling super fast. I didn't, get super complicated with my gear. Pretty much everything fits inside of the well of the kayak, save for the fishing pole and the sleeping bag. So it's not like I'm gonna have a lot of things hanging off of my kayak, for example. But we're gonna take baby steps, and like I said, the first paddle is really short, and then I'm only gonna do the longer one if I'm feeling good about myself and feel like I can make that trip and not be miserable. There's something about doing things alone that is just very different, right? I mean, it can be rewarding in the sense that it rejuvenates you. You've got the quiet, the peace, the solitude, and that at any point you can just go back and see your family. But in the meantime, you just enjoy that peace and quiet and alone time. But being very alone in a very remote place, it's kind of scary sometimes. Back when I was doing the Utah trip last a couple Decembers ago, there were a few moments where I just didn't feel very comfortable where I was, whether it be because I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb, or it was late at night and I was off in the middle of nowhere, or I was way off all by myself in a car. But I had that safety of a car around me rather than anything else. One of those nagging fears when you're out in remote wilderness is what about X? And X could be anything from whatever you might be imagining in your head, whether that be bears or wolves or something like that. Somewhat irrational fears, but healthy ones too. So those are the kind of things I need to overcome, things that I need to do to build confidence. If I can be all by myself, just a short distance away from a tornado and right, let's have an adrenaline rush and be excited, I think I'll be just fine on some island in a lake, sleeping in a tent. At any rate, I've got a border crossing coming up here soon. So I'll see you again in Canada. Bye.